You know, it's funny. Usually when we talk about, like, a medical diagnosis, there's this expectation of total clinical precision.
Oh, absolutely. Like an X-ray.
Right, exactly. You break your arm, you go to the hospital, they take the x-ray, and you see that jagged white line right there on the radius bone.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctor just points to the screen and says, well, there it is. That's the problem.
It's incredibly comforting, really, because it's completely legible.
Yeah, binary. Broken or not broken.
Right. The human brain craves that kind of categorization.
Mm.
We desperately want to point to a physical artifact and say, you know, my suffering comes from this specific isolated event.
But then you step into the world of human psychology.
Or
Emotional development.
Oh, totally different game.
Completely. Or even just the daily reality of navigating a complex adult life, and suddenly that x-ray machine is entirely useless.
Yeah, it really is.
We find ourselves looking at this diagnostic landscape that is just incredibly murky. And, you know, that murkiness, that feeling of not quite being able to pinpoint the fracture, even though you know you are in pain.
Right, the invisible fracture.
Exactly. That brings us directly to our mission for today. Welcome to the deep dive.
I am so excited for this one.
Me too. We are immersing ourselves in an incredible manuscript titled Stuck, Why We Turn Away from the Storm and How We Move Through It.
That's such a powerful title.
It really is. And our goal today is to unpack an experience so universal that I can practically guarantee you, the listener, are intimately familiar with it.
Oh, without a doubt. Everyone listening has felt this.
We are talking about being stuck. But the wild thing the source material reveals is that most of us completely misdiagnose the problem.
We really do.
Yeah.
We treat our stuckness like it's a character flaw.
Right. Like, oh, I'm just bad at life. But we're going to explore why you might be deeply stuck right now without even fully realizing it.
And the actual neurobiology of why it happened.
Yes, the biology. And most importantly, how you can begin to get out.
What's so subversive about the way this manuscript approaches the concept is how it frames the sheer invisibility of the condition.
The invisibility, yeah.
Because when we hear the word stuck, our cultural conditioning immediately conjures up this image of dramatic, undeniable collapse.
Like someone who just won't get off the couch.
Exactly. We picture someone who is entirely given up on life, someone who literally cannot get out of bed, you know, someone whose house is in ruins.
Right. We equate stuckness with the complete cessation of basic functioning.
But the text makes a critical distinction here, and it's brilliant. It talks about the illusion of continuity.
The illusion of continuity. This concept completely reframed things for me.
It's paradigm shifting. Stuckness rarely looks like a cinematic breakdown. Far more often, it looks like hypercompetence.
Wait, really? Hypercompetence?
Yeah. You might seem incredibly responsible on the outside. You know, you are composed, you're productive, your inbox is at zero.
Your kids are at soccer practice on time?
Exactly. You look completely functional to the outside world. But internally, a vital, essential part of your life has just stopped moving.
Wow. So you look fine, but the engine is dead.
Right. Because human beings possess this terrifying capacity for adaptation.
We are so adaptable, sometimes too adaptable.
We are biologically wired to adapt to what is incomplete or painful, as long as it keeps us functioning in the tribe.
So we tell ourselves these highly plausible, socially acceptable stories.
We do. We say things like, oh, I'm just in a strange season right now.
Or, I'm carrying a lot of overhead at work. The timing to make a change is just bad.
And those things might be factually true. You might genuinely have a demanding week.
But the cognitive trick we play on ourselves is using those temporary facts to mask a much larger structural reality.
Exactly. They mask the fact that a crucial decision, whether it's about a relationship or a career or a boundary, has been delayed for so long.
Delayed so long that the decision itself actually belongs to a past version of yourself.
That's the tragedy of it. Your life is continuing, yes, but it is continuing in a severely narrowed, compromised form.
You're essentially functioning beside the thing you are not facing.
Yes, you're walking parallel to your own life.
That makes me think of the central framing image the author uses, which is just brilliant.
The bison. I love this part.
It's so good. So think about the American bison out on the open plains of the Midwest.
Okay, picturing it.
When severe weather hits, like a massive blizzard gathering on the horizon, most animals like cows do what their survival instinct dictates.
Which is to run away, right?
Right. They try to outrun it, they turn away from the storm, and they run.
Wait, sounds logically.
It does, but because the storm is moving across the plains in the exact same direction they are running by trying to outpace it, they inadvertently keep themselves inside the weather system.
Oh, wow. So they're running with the blizzard.
Exactly. They are extending their time in the freezing cold. But the bison, however, has evolved a completely different instinct.
It's a fascinating behavioral adaptation.
When the storm approaches, the herd turns west, directly toward the weather, and walks straight into the blizzard.
Which sounds crazy, but biologically it's genius. By walking directly into the prevailing winds, the bison dramatically minimizes its exposure time to the severe weather.
Because the storm is moving east and they are moving west.
Right. So the time it takes for the storm to pass over them is cut in half. They cross the threshold of the suffering as quickly as physically possible.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second because we aren't doing a wildlife deep dive.
Right.
We are essentially a species running in the exact same direction as the storm, trying to outpace it.
And just keeping ourselves in the freezing rain indefinitely.
Exactly. When a storm is coming in our own lives, say, a confrontation we know will blow up a friendship.
Or admitting out loud that a 10-year career path was a complete mistake.
Right. Turning away feels like the adult, measured, practical thing to do. We tell ourselves we're being prudent.
We say, I'm just waiting for the weather to clear.
But aren't we just building a permanent residence inside the storm's shadow?
That is the ultimate paradox of avoidance. In the immediate moment, avoidance registers to the brain as self-care.
It feels like self-protection.
It really does. The brain's predictive processing models tell us, if I postpone this confrontation, if I just wait for a better time, I am keeping this organism safe from harm.
So people will spend years, literally decades, turning away from the storm in their own lives.
Genuinely convinced that their avoidance is a shield.
But as the manuscript argues so sharply, they are only extending their exposure to the suffering.
They never escape the weather. They just learn how to live a suppressed, muted existence underneath it.
Which brings us to a massive psychological contradiction.
Oh, the laziness myth.
Yes. If stuckness is really just us running from the storm because our brains are trying to protect us from pain, why do we relentlessly, mercilessly blame ourselves for being lazy?
It's the default verdict in our culture.
It is. If you aren't moving forward, you must be lazy. You lack discipline. You lack grit.
It's the default. And it completely falls apart under any real scrutiny.
The author passionately rejects the moral judgment of laziness. They call it a cheap verdict.
And it is cheap, primarily because it's intellectually lazy in itself.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Calling someone lazy or branding yourself as lazy spares everyone the difficult, uncomfortable work of looking at the environmental and psychological mechanisms that are actually locking you in place.
Right, because if it were just a lack of willpower, you wouldn't see the phenomenon we see every single day.
Which is?
Highly intelligent, deeply conscientious, fiercely ambitious people becoming entirely immobilized.
Yes. The frozen high achievers.
I'm talking about people who can articulate exactly what their problem is, they know the steps they should take, they have all the resources, and yet they are totally frozen.
Laziness totally fails to explain that person.
It really does. So
Yeah.
What is actually happening there?
To understand what is happening in the brain of that highly capable frozen person, we have to look at the cognitive environment they're trying to navigate.
Okay, the cognitive environment.
This is where the work of Pauline Boss becomes essential. She's a family therapist who coined the concept of ambiguous loss.
Ambiguous loss. That's a powerful phrase.
It essentially means loss without closure. Our society is built on the assumption that problems are clean and legible.
Like the broken arm.
Exactly. If your car breaks down, you take it to the mechanic. If someone passes away, we have funerals and deeply ingrained cultural rituals for mourning.
The human brain is incredibly good at processing definitive endings.
But the things that keep us stuck are rarely definitive. They don't have funerals.
Right, so the brain just sort of short circuits.
Yes. The brain requires a readable world in order to formulate an action plan. It needs to know the parameters of reality.
And Boss points out that many of the conditions holding us in place are profoundly blurred.
Think about the cognitive load of a relationship that is functionally and emotionally dead, but outwardly completely intact.
Oh, wow. Like, you share a mortgage, you go to the same holiday parties, you sleep in the same bed.
Exactly. Or consider a career that has completely hollowed you out, but you have no new job offer to replace it, and society still praises you for your title.
Or perhaps navigating a relationship with a parent who is physically present in the room with you, but psychologically absent.
Right, due to dementia or severe addiction.
The brain literally doesn't know how to grieve that because the object of the grief is still sitting across the dinner table.
Yes. And there's this concept in psychology called the Zeigarnik effect.
The Zeigarnik effect.
It tells us that the brain remembers and fixates on uncompleted or interrupted tasks much better than completed ones.
So an ambiguous loss is basically an open loop.
Exactly. Your mind cannot cleanly reorganize itself around a new reality because the old reality hasn't officially vacated the premises.
So when reality is that blurred, when there is no settled meaning, you aren't simply refusing to move forward out of laziness.
Not at all. You are trying to navigate through thick, disorienting fog.
And in a thick fog, your confidence completely evaporates because every single step feels potentially fatal.
You don't know whether holding on is loyal or if letting go is healthy.
But let's look at the flip side of this. What about the people who don't look like they are wandering in a fog at all?
Who are you thinking of?
I'm thinking of the perfectionists. The people who are sprinting, optimizing every minute of their day, color-coding their planners.
Ah, yes, the optimizers.
They look like the antithesis of stuck, but the manuscript claims they are actually completely stalled out.
This is a brilliant connection to the research of Brené Brown.
I love her work.
It's so relevant here. Society loves perfectionism. We reward it, we promote it, we treat it like evidence of a deep commitment to excellence.
But it's a trap.
It is. Brown's data reveals the mechanics beneath the behavior. Perfectionism is not about high standards.
Wait, it's not.
No. It is a highly sophisticated, socially sanctioned defense mechanism designed to make action feel safe.
Oh, wow.
She notes that when perfectionism is driving, shame is riding shotgun.
Oh, I feel personally attacked by this part of the research.
A lot of people do.
I am the textbook example of this. If I decide I want to organize my garage, I won't just go out there and start moving boxes.
Of course not. That would be too messy.
Right. No, I will read 5 different books on spatial organization. I will research specialized, climate-controlled storage bins.
You have to get the right bins.
Exactly. I will create a highly detailed, color-coded spreadsheet of the inventory, and 3 years later, my garage is still an absolute disaster.
But I bet you have a beautiful spreadsheet.
I have a stunning spreadsheet. I bought the dignity of preparation without ever doing the work.
The dignity of preparation. That's a perfect phrase for
It
it.
feels like work.
It does. You treated your own life like a museum exhibit.
Yeah.
You put your garage project, and by extension, your own vulnerability behind thick, pristine, bulletproof glass.
Right. As long as I'm researching the bins, no one can criticize the way I actually packed the boxes.
Exactly. No one can see the messy, unfinished, embarrassing drafts of your progress.
You delay action under the guise of caring about doing it right, but biologically, you are terrified.
Terrified of exposure.
Because the moment I actually start moving boxes, I have to confront the reality of my own mess.
And that's the hard part.
I have to make decisions about what to throw away, which means confronting the undeniable reality of things I bought and never used.
Undeniable reality is the key phrase there. Courage, true movement, requires dropping the shield of preparation.
We stay stuck in the research phase or the getting clear phase because moving would force a reality to become final.
Exactly. If you finally leave the vague, unhappy relationship, you have to admit that something you once trusted with your life has truly ended.
If you pick a new career path, you have to allow all those other hypothetical unchosen futures to officially die.
And the brain wants to avoid that grief at all costs. So we hide.
We hide in vagueness. We tell our friends we are in transition.
We say we are figuring it out.
Right. And because shame loves secrecy, this vague language keeps the stuckness concealed, which only makes the trap stronger.
It reinforces itself.
So, if we synthesize this, stuckness isn't laziness. It's a complex, self-protective response to ambiguous loss, grief, and the fear of exposure.
Beautifully summarized.
But I want to get into the mechanics of how this takes root.
Let's do it.
How does a single afternoon of avoiding an uncomfortable phone call snowball into a 10-year holding pattern that dictates your entire identity?
To understand that escalation, we have to look at the neurobiology of relief.
The neurobiology of relief.
A manuscript highlights a very pragmatic, undeniable truth that most self-help books completely ignore.
Which is?
Avoidance works.
It really does. It works incredibly well in the short term.
It is a highly effective temporary anesthetic. Let's look at the mechanism.
Okay, walk me through it.
Say you are dreading a difficult conversation with a partner, or you are staring at an unopened envelope from the IRS.
Oh, the IRS envelope. That's a universal anxiety trigger right there.
Right. Your sympathetic nervous system is highly activated.
Yeah.
Your amygdala is sounding the alarm. Your HPA axis is pumping cortisol and adrenaline into your bloodstream.
You are experiencing acute physiological distress.
Your heart rate is up. Your breathing is shallow.
You are in fight or flight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, the moment you say to yourself, you know what, I'm too tired to deal with this tonight, I'll open it tomorrow, and you put that envelope in a drawer, what happens to your body?
Your shoulders instantly drop. You take a deep breath. You feel better.
Your parasympathetic nervous system kicks in. You experience a genuine physiological reduction in pressure, a massive drop in cortisol.
And here is the danger.
Right.
Here.
Yes, that reduction in pressure is a profound form of learning.
Because your brain is paying attention to what just made you feel safe.
Through operant conditioning specifically, negative reinforcement, your brain makes an immediate, powerful association.
It links the act of retreat with the feeling of safety and relief.
Your nervous system logs a very clear rule. It says, when I back away from difficulty, I survive.
Wow. So you are exchanging the concentrated, acute suffering of dealing with the problem for a quieter, diffuse suffering.
Exactly. And the tragedy is that diffuse suffering can quietly consume years of your life.
It's an addiction loop. It's like hitting the snooze button on a painful reality.
That's a great analogy.
The hit of relief is so intoxicating that you just keep hitting the button until the alarm is blaring all day long.
And if you repeat that loop enough times, the nervous system stops seeing hope as a possibility and starts seeing it as a threat.
Wait, hope becomes a threat.
Yes, the text brings in Martin Seligman's research here, which I think is absolutely vital for anyone who feels like they are drowning in their own inaction.
Seligman's concept of learned helplessness.
Yes, it completely shifts the paradigm from blame to biology.
So how does it work?
His research, spanning decades, demonstrates that passivity is not an inherent trait. It is a learned response to specific environmental conditions.
Okay.
If an organism, whether it's an animal in a lab or a human being in a complex social structure, lives through repeated situations where their actions do not alter the outcome of their suffering.
Like pushing a button that doesn't do anything.
Right. The brain learns that responding is fundamentally futile.
And we see this in the real world constantly.
All the time.
If you grow up in a highly chaotic, unpredictable household where the rules constantly change based on a parent's mood.
Or if you spend 5 years in a workplace where every piece of initiative you take is met with punishment or stolen credit by a toxic boss.
Exactly. Your brain runs a cost-benefit analysis. It learns that burning calories to try and change the environment is a waste of energy.
From an evolutionary standpoint, the brain shuts down the trying mechanism to conserve energy in an unwinnable environment.
Because why burn the calories if nothing changes?
Exactly. And this is where it gets incredibly poignant. When you map your environment as a place where your actions don't matter, hope literally becomes dangerous.
Because if you genuinely believe the environment won't yield, then allowing yourself to hope for a promotion or hope for a healthy relationship is just setting yourself up for an emotional injury.
It's like reaching out to touch a hot stove on purpose.
Your brain shuts down hope to protect you from the devastation of repeated disappointment.
So turning away stops feeling like a choice.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like basic realism.
Yeah.
It feels like survival.
Okay, I deeply empathize with that. It makes so much sense of why people stay in terrible situations.
It's not a lack of willpower, it's a learned survival strategy.
Right. But I want to push back a little here on behalf of our listener.
Go for it.
What about the person tuning in who is saying, look, I didn't have a traumatic childhood. I don't have an abusive boss.
Okay.
I'm just an entrepreneur waiting for the absolute perfect moment to launch my product. I'm taking courses. I'm waiting for the market conditions to settle. I'm not helpless. I'm strategic.
The strategic delay.
Right. How does the research categorize that highly respectable, incredibly common form of delay?
That is where the manuscript brings in the philosophy of Oliver Burkeman, who cuts straight through that socially acceptable defense mechanism.
What does he say?
Well, very few high-achieving people will admit they are postponing their lives because they are terrified.
Yeah.
They use the language of strategy. They say,
Yeah.
I'm gathering data. I'm getting clearer. I'm waiting for a sign.
Right, I'm waiting for market research.
But Burkeman delivers this devastating truth. He says, the future will never provide the reassurance you seek from it.
Oh, wow. That line is just brutal.
It hits hard, doesn't it?
The future will never provide the reassurance you seek from it. We treat the future like it's this magical land where all risk has been eliminated by our preparation.
We do. We believe that if we just read one more book on market trends or do one more year of therapy or get one more certification, we will finally reach a state of internal equilibrium where movement no longer feels risky.
But that state doesn't exist.
It doesn't. The future does not remove the fundamental conditions of human existence, which require us to act in the face of uncertainty.
So we're just hiding.
As Burkeman points out, we spend vast portions of our lives preparing to live, using preparation as a hiding place from the terrifying vulnerability of actually executing on our desires.
It ties right back into Brené Brown's observations about being crazy busy.
Yes, the armor of productivity.
If you are constantly optimizing your website, answering emails at 11 p.m., managing everyone's schedules, society looks at you and says, wow, what a hustler.
But you are wearing productivity as armor.
Exactly. You are using hyperfunctioning to numb yourself. Because if you actually slowed down and stopped prepping, the central truth of your life would catch up with you.
You'd have to admit that you hate your business model or that your marriage is failing.
Which is terrifying.
Which is why Burkeman offers a profoundly counterintuitive diagnostic tool for this.
Oh, a diagnostic tool. What is it?
He notes that if you are deeply resisting a task, if you're procrastinating on launching that business or having that conversation, that resistance is actually a compass.
See, I always thought that if I was procrastinating on something, it meant I didn't actually care about it, that maybe it wasn't my true passion.
It's the exact opposite. The task stimulates procrastination precisely because so much of your identity, so much of your core self is at stake in the outcome.
So I'm avoiding it because it matters too much.
Exactly. You aren't avoiding it because it doesn't matter. You're avoiding it because the potential for failure threatens your ego.
So we have these mechanics clearly laid out. Avoidance brings a hit of relief.
Right.
That relief gets reinforced by the nervous system until it becomes an automatic habit.
It becomes hardwired.
But the manuscript points out a terrifying tipping point. There is a specific threshold where that habit of delay quietly, invisibly, hardens into your actual identity.
This is arguably the most dangerous phase of the entire phenomenon.
Because you stop fighting it.
Exactly. When you first start avoiding something, you are highly aware of the dissonance. You know you should be studying for the bar exam, but you are watching Netflix instead.
There is friction. You feel guilty.
The gap between your values and your actions is painful.
But the human brain hates cognitive dissonance.
You can't tolerate it for long. So the friction slowly disappears. Your tactile retreat settles into a daily routine.
The avoidance simply becomes the shape of your actual life.
And while you are getting used to living this narrowed space, the avoided thing is gathering weight in the dark.
It's like compound interest, but for anxiety.
That is exactly what it is.
The longer you leave the debt unpaid, the more insurmountable the principle becomes.
Precisely. The conversation you haven't had with your sibling becomes terrifying, not because the actual words are that difficult to say, but because of the literal years of imagination and projected catastrophic outcomes you've piled around it.
You've built a monster in your head.
And the evidence of your delay begins to acquire a critical voice. It starts whispering to you, look, if you were actually capable of doing this, you would have done it 5 years ago.
Wow.
The fact that you are still sitting here means you don't have what it takes.
That is the insidious shift. That is the moment shame mutates from an event into an essence.
Yeah, it's a devastating shift.
It goes from, I am avoiding the specific hard thing to, I am a coward. I'm the kind of person who is incapable of hard things.
Your delay stops being a behavior and becomes undeniable evidence of your defective character.
And once you adopt that identity, familiar misery feels infinitely safer than unfamiliar possibility.
You lock the door from the inside and throw away the key.
And we justify locking that door by clinging to what Seth Godin calls the fantasy of the golden path.
Because nobody wants to admit they've locked themselves in.
Nobody says, I'm never going to try to be happy.
Instead, they say, I am waiting for the right moment. They want a beginning that is clean, perfectly wise, universally supported by everyone they know, and absolutely guaranteed against humiliation.
They want the universe to issue them a warranty before they take a single step.
A cosmic warranty.
It's like refusing to start a cross-country road trip from New York to Los Angeles until every single traffic light across the entire continent turns green at the exact same time.
That is a brilliant analogy.
You sit in your car, your hands confidently on the wheel, the engine is running, you've packed the snacks. You get to inhabit the identity of a traveler.
But you never actually have to leave the safety of your driveway.
You get the dignity of preparation without the exposure of contact with reality.
But life, by its very nature, does not offer golden paths. It offers Messy, imperfect thresholds that must be crossed by deeply flawed, uncertain people.
So Godin proposes a solution that directly attacks this fantasy. How do you break out of the driveway?
He argues that the only way out is to do something that feels completely unreasonable in the short term.
Wait, unreasonable. That sounds counterproductive. If someone is already terrified, why tell them to be unreasonable?
Because you have to consider their baseline. Their entire life has been meticulously organized around extreme caution, retreat, and self-protection.
Right, so their meter is off.
Their internal calibration for what constitutes normal risk is completely skewed. Therefore, any necessary healthy action, like finally setting a boundary with a toxic family member or hitting publish on an article, will inherently feel disproportionate to their nervous system.
It will feel dramatic, excessive, and entirely unreasonable.
Exactly.
Right. If you've spent 10 years whispering in a library, speaking at a normal conversational volume in a coffee shop is going to feel like you are screaming at the top of your lungs.
That's it. Exactly.
The action itself isn't extreme. Your gauge is just broken.
The correct, healthy action hasn't vanished. It has just become emotionally legible to you.
Okay, so if we accept this, if we recognize that we are trapped in this identity, sitting in the driveway waiting for a continental green light, terrified that putting the car in drive will feel unreasonable, we arrive at what I think is the most transformative part of this entire deep dive.
This is the core of it.
How do we actually redefine courage? How do we stop running east and turn west into the storm like the bison?
We have to start by completely dismantling the false picture of courage that keeps us trapped.
Culturally, we are taught that courage is an emotion.
Right. We imagine it's this swelling feeling of fearlessness and total confidence that is supposed to arrive before movement begins.
We wait for our internal weather to clear up. We wait to feel brave.
But the author is relentless on this point. If human beings waited for our inner weather to settle before taking action, nothing of consequence would have ever been accomplished in the history of the world.
Courage is not the disappearance of fear.
No. Courage is the conscious decision to stop letting fear organize your life.
This connects beautifully to the work of psychologist Stephen C. Hayes.
Yes, the founder of Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, or ACT.
Hayes targets one of the most deeply ingrained, seductive fantasies in the modern wellness and self-help industry.
The idea that you have to fix your feelings.
Yes. Or heal your trauma completely before you are allowed to live a full life.
Oh, the healing trap. It's so prevalent.
The idea that you can't start a relationship until you are 100% healed.
Precisely. Hayes proposes a radical, almost disorienting alternative. He says the solution is not in changing feelings, but in opening up to them.
Through a process called cognitive diffusion, right?
Yes. He teaches that we don't have to wrestle our anxiety into submission.
What if you didn't need to feel better to live better? That single question forces you to rethink everything.
Because we treat our feelings like they're sovereign dictators.
We really do.
Fear stands at the door and says, don't go out there, you might fail.
Mm.
And we salute and obey.
Shame says, hide your work, they will laugh at you, and we bury it in a drawer.
Hayes argues that painful experiences, anxiety, shame, grief, are simply data. They are weather patterns moving through the nervous system.
They're not binding instructions from a supreme commander.
Exactly.
So if I'm feeling fear, the fear is accurately pointing out that there is a risk involved. But just because it's accurate doesn't mean it gets to be the boss.
It doesn't earn the right to hold a veto over your entire existence.
Exactly. The first real act of courage is remarkably unglamorous.
It really is.
It is just a modest, quiet refusal to keep obeying the old terms of surrender. It's looking at the fear and saying, I am terrified, my hands are shaking, I feel completely inadequate, and I'm going to make the phone call anyway while shaking.
But I have to pause here, because there is a massive, incredibly subtle trap hiding in this, particularly for a specific subset of our listeners.
What's the trap?
The learner persona.
The
The people who devour deep dives like this one, who read all the psychology books. The text points out a devastating distinction between insight and encounter.
Insight versus encounter.
You can have PhD-level insight into your own neuroses. You can know exactly why you delay. You can trace your fear of abandonment back to a specific Tuesday when you were 7 years old.
You can map your entire psychological landscape on a whiteboard.
And you can still remain 100% stationary.
Because insight is merely intellectual. It happens in the prefrontal cortex. Action requires the entire organism.
As the author beautifully articulates, insight lights the doorway. It shows you exactly where the exit is.
But insight does not carry you through it.
At some point, You have to cross the physical threshold. And crossing the threshold means encountering reality, not just endlessly analyzing it in a journal.
And we have to be brutally honest about what happens when you cross that threshold.
It is going to feel terrible.
The discomfort of movement is not a metaphor. It is a physiological reality.
Because retreat and avoidance have been your primary methods for regulating your nervous system for years.
So stepping forward is going to feel highly dysregulating. You're going to feel exposed, unsafe, and completely off balance.
But here's the critical reframe. That dysregulation does not mean you are making a mistake. It does not mean the action is wrong.
It simply means you are violating your old dysfunctional law of retreat.
Your body is screaming, wait, our established survival protocol is to run away. Why are we walking into the blizzard?
You have to learn to tolerate that specific discomfort.
Brené Brown offers a vital reality check here. She says, the truth is that falling hurts. The dare is to keep being brave and feel your way back up.
Movement doesn't magically neutralize the pain. It's not an anesthetic, but it gives the pain a direction.
It gives it a purpose.
Instead of the anxiety just stagnating and rotting inside your body like swamp water, it becomes a river. It flows towards something meaningful.
It becomes directional. The suffering finally belongs to passage, rather than just belonging to paralysis.
So if you've internalized this, if you realize you don't need to change your feelings to move, and that courage is simply taking the veto power away from your fear, we arrive at the final and perhaps the most liberating yet terrifying realization of this entire exploration.
Movement before readiness.
This concept completely dismantles the final illusion we use to protect ourselves, the illusion of readiness.
People genuinely deeply believe they need to feel ready before they can begin moving.
We use the word readiness as a highly respectable, universally accepted cover story for indefinite postponement.
We say, I just need to get my ducks in a row. I just need to build a little more runway. Just need to feel secure.
But people are confusing preparedness with permission. They are waiting for a magical internal feeling to authorize their action.
Here's the secret that unlocks the trap. The capacities you think you need before you start the clarity, the unwavering confidence, the strong new identity, those are not prerequisites for action.
They are produced by the action itself.
You literally cannot get the confidence to do the thing until you're in the middle of doing the thing.
The action generates the trait, which means you are forced to start before you are ready.
And that requires facing what Seth Godin calls the humiliation of a real beginning.
Real beginnings are incredibly humbling. They are never elegant.
Godin says the only place to begin is where you are. And let's be honest, where you are is usually a mess.
Real beginnings start while you are still fundamentally divided, while your voice is shaking, while you are actively grieving the comfort of your old life, and while you are profoundly afraid.
A real beginning does not protect you from looking foolish.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate for the listener who is feeling a bit overwhelmed by this.
Please do.
Are we advocating for recklessness? Should someone just walk into their boss's office tomorrow, quit their job with zero savings, blow up their marriage, and leap blindly into the void just to prove they are practicing movement before readiness?
Not at all, and it's crucial to make that distinction. Movement before readiness is the opposite of recklessness.
It is a profound, deep seriousness.
Recklessness is just another way of avoiding reality by creating chaos. Real movement before readiness is the exact moment you finally stop bargaining with the universe for a cleaner, easier life than reality actually offers.
You stop demanding guarantees.
It is answering Stephen C. Hayes' call that your core values, the things you actually want your life to be about, do not demand that you feel perfectly calm before you pursue them.
They just ask you to show up, regardless of the internal weather.
And the actual path out of stuckness is almost never a cinematic, heroic leap.
We want the grand gesture because we feel like a massive leap is the only thing equivalent to the 10 years we've spent stuck.
But the text talks about the modest path out. The real step forward is often so small, so remarkably mundane, that it might actually disappoint your ego.
That is a brilliant point. The ego wants a dramatic redemption story.
But the actual step might simply be an unrevised truth spoken aloud to a friend over coffee.
It might be finally making one phone call to a therapist.
It might be holding one tiny boundary with a parent at Thanksgiving.
It's sending the rough draft with typos. It's just putting the car in drive.
Which brings us right back to the bison on the plains.
Going through the storm isn't about performing toughness. It's not about beating your chest and trying to conquer the blizzard.
It is simply stopping the exhausting arrangement of your life around trying not to encounter what must be encountered.
It's just putting one heavy hoof in front of the other directly into the prevailing wind.
So as we synthesize all of these concepts, we want to deliver the fundamental encouragement that lies at the heart of this manuscript.
Yes, I want to speak directly to you right now. If you recognize yourself in this conversation, if you see your own delays reflected here, your own respectable disguises, your own endless waiting for the golden path, you need to know fundamentally that you are not broken for being here.
You are not uniquely defective.
You are experiencing a profoundly common, biologically driven human condition. You are not alone. And more importantly, there's a very real path through, and it begins purely with movement.
You can forgive yourself right now for having lived inside this stuckness longer than you understood.
You didn't know the mechanics. You were doing what your brain thought was safest. But now you know how the trap works.
And the way forward from here is incredibly practical. We leave you with Stephen C. Hayes' ultimate directive. He says, do something. Literally anything. Make it small, and make it smaller still until you reach a point where you are willing to take action.
Make it so small it's impossible to fail. And once you take that tiny, unreasonable action, I want you to carry the words of the poet Mary Oliver with you.
Such a beautiful quote.
She asks a question that cuts through all the fog, all the preparation, and all the excuses. She says, tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?
That is the question that is waiting for you on the other side of the storm.
Yeah.
And if we connect this to the widest possible lens on the human experience, if stuckness is ultimately defined by our relationship to difficulty, then perhaps the goal of life isn't to finally achieve a frictionless, storm-free existence.
We spend so much energy wishing for the weather to clear permanently.
But the weather never clears permanently. The storms are a guaranteed feature of the landscape.
They are. And so perhaps the ultimate freedom is realizing that since pain, difficulty, and storms are guaranteed, you finally get the power to choose your difficulties.
You get to participate in them.
You get to choose the meaningful pain of growth rather than having the dull, suffocating pain of decay chosen for you by your avoidance.
The opposite of being stuck isn't certainty. It's participation.
Choose your storm. Walk into it. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Take that small step today.